Hello there. Going to give you some updates on Ghislaine Maxwell's sentencing, and what I'm going to do is basically read off the sentencing guidelines so far. What's been going on at the court in New York currently. So we'll go back about an hour ago, where prosecutors had asked the judge to sentence Ghislaine Maxwell, who turned 60 while in jail, to at least 30 years in prison. Her lawyers suggested 6 years is appropriate. Um, Bobby Steinem, who was the lawyer for Ghislaine Maxwell, is going to be doing most of the speaking. And she said that, by the way, Steinem's long career defended very controversial clients, starting with Khalid al-Fawaz, who was an associate of Osama bin Laden, and he was later convicted of helping bin Laden carry out the bombings of the U.S. embassies in Tanzania and Kenya in 1998. Um, Maxwell had been fighting to limit the number of women who could speak at her sentencing in Lower Manhattan today, but the prosecutors have indicated 2 women will speak in court, but the judge on Monday said as many as 6 people may be present, and in-person statement and sentencing if they wish to do so. Among the people is Virginia Giuffre, who sued Prince Andrew. Um, Maxwell basically wants to be free less than 5 years, and I mean, she's probably going to end up suicided in jail anyway if she doesn't talk. So far, I'm surprised she hasn't made a deal. The judge addressed 2 perjury counts, which prosecutors agreed to drop after Maxwell was convicted in December of 5 felonies, including engaging in a decade-long sex trafficking scheme. Prosecutors had charged Maxwell with lying under oath when she died, knowing about Epstein's sexual abuse of underage girls. Um, Maxwell's defense team has asked for a prison term of 51 to 63 months. And Maxwell is objecting to prosecutors' request that Nathan find that she played a leadership role in the criminal scheme. Judge Nathan said the guidelines require her to find she was an organizer or leader and that the activity involved more than 5 participants. About 24 minutes ago, Judge Nathan said she must apply the sentencing guidelines in place at the time the offense was committed, saying applying the current guidelines would result in a significantly lower sentence than she would get under the ones that were in place when the crime happened. Now, Nathan said that calculating a sentence for Maxwell hinges on whether there's any evidence that shows criminal conduct continued after November 4th, 2004. And the judge says there isn't enough evidence to support the higher guidelines sought by prosecutors. Um, According to the defense, that means Maxwell is facing less than 20 years. However, the judge finds that Maxwell did supervise one of the sex victims, Kellen, for a time. She worked as the socialized. I'm sorry, she worked as not a victim. She was Maxwell's personal assistant, um, in which Judge Nathan concludes that under Kellen, Maxwell was Epstein's lady of the house. Judge Nathan also said that 2 pilots who worked for Epstein were supervised by Maxwell. Now, one of the victims, whose name went by the name Caroline, judge found that Maxwell had victim Caroline engage in commercial sex acts and paid her money, in which Caroline testified she was paid hundreds of dollars for each encounter with Epstein, with Maxwell sometimes paying her in the kitchen before she left. Judge Nathan also finds that Caroline was a 14-year-old from Palm Beach when she met Maxwell and Epstein, as well as a girl named Melissa, were sex trafficking victims. Judge Nathan found that both Caroline, as well as a girl named Melissa, were indeed sex trafficking victims, and that Judge Nathan had found there were 5 victims who were underage at the time of Maxwell crimes: Jane, Annie Farmer, Caroline, Virginia Giuffre, and a girl named Melissa. I'm sorry, Judge Nathan now says the guideline range is 210 months to 282 months for Maxwell, and revised now that um, 5 minutes ago. And by the way, Patricia Hurtado is the legal reporter in the trial reporting on this. The new range that Judge Nathan is now going to entertain is anywhere between 15 to 19 years. Maxwell is now arguing that a $10 million bequeath she got from Epstein shouldn't be factored into her assets and her ability to pay a criminal penalty. I will tell you right now, 15 to 19 years is absurd, and I'm stunned at the sentencing guidelines. This woman basically is a international sex trafficker. She is convicted of 5 felonies, and she's only looking at 15 to 19 years. And if you don't think this is compromised, I don't know what to tell you. She should be doing life in prison without the possibility of parole. But there is no real justice in this country. But as of right now, we don't know yet what Judge Nathan is sentencing her right now. I'm going to try and give you the best updates as I can from everywhere and anywhere. Um, you know, I'm. It's absurd to me that people are in Rikers. I'm in New York. That there were people in Rikers Island doing 20 years for marijuana dealing, now under the infamous Rockefeller laws of the 1970s and 80s. And yes, we don't have the Rockefeller laws anymore, but we got people doing 20, 25 years for selling you a sheet of acid in prison. This is just ridiculous. Here's a woman who was basically convicted of sex trafficking, international sex trafficking, 5 felony counts. She should be doing life in prison. I mean, these are not just underage girls. These girls are 14 years old, 13, 14, just real minors. I'm blown away by it. I shouldn't be, but what a damn shame if she gets 15 years because Ghislaine Maxwell is not, she's older, but she can see daylight. She's 60 years old, and just I just can't believe that she's going to get maybe the most 20 years, 19 years. She was placed on suicide watch on June 24th, just before a sentencing date, and I was like, all right, here it is, right? But I'm surprised that she hasn't made, like I said before, that she hasn't made a deal with federal prosecutors. This woman knows names, and we want to know what's in that black book. But if she is guilty and she doesn't take a deal, we'll never know. Just like with 9/11. There's a lot of documents and files that, the intelligence agencies like the CIA, like the NSA, like the Israeli Mossad, and the Saudi General Intelligence Directorate, they have documents and files and recordings of people, and they're not released to the public. And it's like I said, there is no real justice in this world. There is none. Judge Nathan now says she will hear from government, victims' defense, and Maxwell in that order. They will take it's 12:30. It's a shocking fact to me. She says that she will take a 30-minute lunch break. Now, Judge Nathan just overruled the defense that she wanted that Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers or attorneys wanted to protect her financial assets. So the judge will consider that the $10 million bequeath from Epstein to Maxwell will be up for, if she's sued, which she will be up for forfeiture to her victims. And while Judge Nathan's going to hear from the government, the victims, that means all 5 of the victims that are there in the trial, the defense, and Maxwell in that order before she gives her sentencing to Ghislaine Maxwell. That is the update so far, and we're going to. I'm going to do it as long as I can. We have some very interesting updates to show you and to share with you regarding what's been happening at the sentencing guidelines so far. And what I'm going to share with you is that um, the defense for Ghislaine Maxwell, led by Gloria Steinem, has basically said that Maxwell was not part of an international conspiracy to sex traffic minors, even though she was found guilty of 5 of those charges earlier this year. Um, Her lawyers have argued that since the criminal conspiracy she was convicted ended in or about 2004, in which Epstein was originally charged by Melissa in Florida, that she should be sentenced under earlier U.S. sentencing guidelines. That means the lesser sentence. So if Maxwell, for example, if Maxwell was found guilty of any of the crimes that were happening before 2004, she was looking at 50 to 70 years, and that's basically a death sentence for her. So I'm at this point, we're pretty much sure that the sentencing, from what I'm getting, is going to be, because Judge Nathan's already said that the sentencing will acquiesce to the later guidelines, which means that any crimes that happened after 2004. And right now, according to Judge Nathan, for those who just got in the room, it's looking like 15 to 19 years. They don't know just yet. And the updates, I will keep bringing you updates as we speak. They're on a break right now. They'll be back, I think, in 10 to 15 minutes. While you're here, I will give you the latest updates of what's going on and what has been happening. So earlier in the day, Maxwell was surrounded by her attorneys, and she basically was being given the red carpet treatment by her attorneys as well. She was surrounded by reporters. The lawyers themselves, they refused to speak with the reporters. The prosecutors, about 2 hours ago, asked Judge Nathan to sentence Maxwell to, at the very least, 30 to 55 years, saying that the crimes basically are 5. She was found guilty of 5 felony counts, and one of them was sex trafficking of a minor across international and state lines, which carries the most severe sentence. And by the way, when I say most severe sentence, for me and you, that would be 30 years, nothing less than that. And she's looking at less than that, believe it or not, and which is, I'm stunned. I shouldn't be. I really shouldn't be. But nevertheless, she's been, by the way, Maxwell had been fighting to limit the number of victims for speaking on their behalf, saying that they're liars. Even the lawyers, Steinem, basically is afraid of the persuasion, if you will, of what they'll do to the sentencing guidelines. Right now, even though I think she's looking at 15 to 19, that's what the court is saying. That could change, because if the victims are going to speak, it should be last to give that lasting effect. They're basically going to speak in the middle. Maxwell is speaking last to her lawyer, by the way. She's not going to speak. But just, it would be a damn shame. Anything less than 20 is just a crime. And I'm just destroyed by it. If just, this is a terrible story. And I don't know. I don't watch TV. If anybody's out there, is it on TV? The media reporting on this is huge. This is the sentencing guideline for Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted earlier this year of 5 counts of sex trafficking of minors under convicted pedophile and billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, who, by the way, killed himself in 2019. I think it was 2019, 18. Anyway, Maxwell, as it came out in the trial, Maxwell was linked for several years to Jeffrey Epstein. She also attended in 2010 to Chelsea Clinton's wedding, for those who don't know. through her associate Ted Walt, the founder of Gateway Computers. Maxwell had helped Ted Walt to obtain and renovate a luxury yacht, which was named Plan B, and use it to travel to France and Croatia between 2010 and 2011. And this is where prosecutors suggest that Plan B was basically an extension of the operation of Jeffrey Epstein. And at that time, he was facing a number of charges at that time. It is stunning to see the amount of people linked to this pedophile ring, this international sex trafficking ring. We're talking about federal government. We're talking about foreign governments. Okay, and there's a lot of connection here between United States, Mexico, Spain, Israel, and I mean, if you want to take a look at the history, go watch Addy Ads, go watch Ryan Dawson, who has who's been covering this for God knows how many years now. And I have some videos, but not as much as them. Go watch them. They're reporting on it. Hard time. I will try and do my best to give you the very live update. Thank you, Vinny. Epstein's death was August 10th, 2019. Thank you very much. I'm going to give you up-to-date live updates as quick as I can. I'll stay on for another hour just for you. I see there's 12 people in the room, 15 now, 14, 15. I'll be here for the next hour. So before I got to go to work, but I figured that this has to be covered. I don't see anybody covering it live sentencing, and I'm shocked by it. Anyway, Ghislaine Maxwell, after she was after Epstein was found suicided, had moved to a 156-acre ranch in Bradford, New Hampshire, where she used former British military personnel as her security. And what do you think that was for? That wasn't for the police, by the way. That was for people. She knows that there's people out there, very powerful people. And I can't name names because I could probably get in trouble for convicting them. They're in the flight logs. So I could say that they were on the flight logs, and they don't want to be linked to Epstein. People like Alan Dershowitz, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, many others, dozens of others. So I'd love to see by the way, the Black Book has not been made public. Now there's people that have published copies of the Black Book. I don't know if they're legit or not. So be careful with that too. But there's a ton of names on these flights, very famous people. Kevin Spacey is another. And how many Hollywood elites are involved with this, with Epstein's travels, whether they partook or not. Listen, we would know for sure if the FBI had released those files, those CD-ROMs of the security cameras in Epstein's mansion in New York, in the ranch in New Mexico, and we would know this. Who was having sex with who? And because Epstein's security had cameras inside the house where these sexual entourages were taking place of these minors. And they're not released. Why wouldn't you? Why? Because there's very powerful people that would be implicated. Maybe Prince Andrew, maybe Bill Clinton, maybe Donald Trump. By the way, don't look at this as a left and right paradigm. This is a systematic abuse paradigm. Very powerful people are involved. So powerful that we don't even know who killed Jeffrey Epstein. And if you believe he was suicided, I don't dismiss it, but he was murdered. He was murdered. They are coming back in 8 minutes. 8 minutes before they start hearing from the government. I want to hear what the government has to say. Let's talk about this for a second. The government has the evidence, okay? The FBI raided the homes, all the homes, including the island Epstein in the Virgin Islands. the mansion in New Mexico, the mansion in New York, and the house in Florida. Okay, all these residences, all the CD-ROMs that were obtained by the FBI, and this is the whole case. And what bothers me is that the prosecution didn't rely on those CD-ROMs. They relied on the testimony of very few people. And during the course of the trial, Maxwell fought against for the release of those photographs, for the release of those CDs, and for the very few photographs that were publicly released. Who was on those? Queen Elizabeth, Prince Andrew. We're not talking about your average Joe here. And while this was going on, Maxwell was held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. And Judge Nathan, who is the judge back then, is the sentencing judge now, the defense lawyers for Maxwell, Gloria Steinem, basically requested a $5 million bond and house arrest, and said no. And she pled not guilty to all the charges back then. And she was found guilty on 5 of those charges. Five of those charges, major. She was found guilty on potential custodian sentence, sex trafficking of a minor, which is a maximum of 40 years, potential custodian sentence of up to 65 years, transporting a minor with intent to engage in criminal sexual activities, that's up to 10 years, and 3 years of conspiracy to commit CHOAT felonies. CHOAT felonies mean completed or perfected behalf. So, and that's 15 years total. So, in other words, of those 5 charges she was convicted of, she was looking at 65 years. As of right now, I will read you the quote that Judge Nathan, 24 minutes ago, revised the calculation from 210 months to 262 months to now 188 months to 235 months. And that would mean that 15 to 19 years. And that is from the guideline range of the crimes that would take place after 2004. She also faced a perjury trial because Ghislaine Maxwell did lie under oath, and she was, which carried a sentence of 5 years in prison. The prosecutors have said that perjury charges will be dropped if she is sentenced on schedule. I wish they didn't do that. If they probably knew what the judge was probably going to give her, they probably would have asked for an additional 5 years. In which, following a petition for a new trial submitted under seal, that's not under the public, prosecutors told Judge Nathan on February 4th of this year that Maxwell's arguments for a retrial must be publicly docketed. And the judge said that the reasons for making the submission under seal must be made public. I totally forgot about that. Maxwell also said that during after her sentencing phase, she said she wanted a retrial, and the prosecutors basically said that they wouldn't call. And this is the real horrifying aspect. Not just the defense is horrifying. The prosecutors are, it's the government. Okay, they basically said that they wouldn't recall most of the victims on the stand if there was a retrial, and that they wouldn't use any of the evidence collected when Epstein was arrested, that they wouldn't use the photographs and the CDs at all, like they did in this trial. So that means they would be having less of a case if there was a retrial. And that's coming from the government, not from the defense. That's unreal. I mean, if you don't think that there's powerful influences at play here persuading the federal government from convicting a guilty sex trafficker, found guilty of 5 of those crimes, all 5 are felonies. If you don't think that, then you're naive. This is incredible. This is unbelievable. I can't believe that the stuff that she's getting away with here. It makes you wonder if that actually, it makes you wonder who is the stronger link here. Was it Epstein or Maxwell? They killed Maxwell. Epstein real quick. You know, okay. Maybe they thought that Maxwell. I did make a prediction. I don't want, it sounds like it's old hat now because we might be looking at less time. But I said months ago that, and this is a theory. This is nothing based on evidence. I said that the people who are involved in those flight logs, those very powerful people, probably told Maxwell in a way or two through messaging that take this sentence and we won't kill you, but you won't get the maximum. You'll get out in 15, 20 years, but we won't kill you like we did Epstein if you shut up. And that's got to be a theory we got to be talking about, because that makes a lot of sense if you really think about it. She's 60 years old. If she gets 15 years, she's out at 75, but she's alive. And she'll have money. She has, I'm pretty sure, money hidden away somewhere that the federal government is going to allow her to have anyway. If she's not getting the max, believe me, they're not going after all her finances. This is a sham court. If she's not getting at least 30 years, this is a basically sham. She should be getting, to me, the death penalty, but she's looking at less than 20 years. This is, it's not yet done. We got to hear from the victims first, and the government and stuff, and Maxwell's lawyers before they make it account, before they sentence her. But wow, if you really think about it, this is just incredible, because I think that's what's going to happen. Is that I think she's going to look at maybe 15, maybe 18 years. And that is from like I said, I'm speculating. I think that's from the pressure of these very powerful people that don't want to be known and that don't want a retrial. Let's get this over with. If Maxwell is killed, then we got to be saying, hey, listen, there is no coincidences. I mean, they're already suspicious of Epstein's death. If Maxwell goes too, we know the fucking jig is up, right? Sorry to curse, but we know the jig is up. Okay. So, but I'm pretty sure that they said, listen, take the sentencing. You won't get the max, but you'll be alive. Just shut your mouth. And I think that makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because of the simple fact that if they have to go the route of killing her, they're only going to do that if she's liable to talk. Which, when she was found guilty of those 5 charges, looking at 65 years, I said right away, she's talking. She is talking, but she's got to be careful because she knows what happened to Epstein. Okay. And throughout the preceding months, I was like, wow, nothing? She didn't make a deal? She's going to do life in prison for the ghouls, the real criminals behind us? It seems they are back. Okay. This is coming from Bob Van Voria, who's a legal reporter inside the courtroom. And he reports that during this morning's proceedings, Maxwell has been seated to the far left of the table with her 2 lawyers, and that she occasionally drank from a tall paper cup. She hasn't shown much emotion so far. But what has happened in court has been pretty dry ahead of the victim impact statements. Tina Davis, the executive edition legal counsel, basically now is reporting that Damian Williams, who took over the U.S. Attorney's Office that oversaw the prosecution of Maxwell last year, is in the courtroom watching the proceedings. And I think we're going to be hearing from Virginia Giuffre, Maria Farmer, I believe, will be speaking as well. I would be shocked if they weren't. Um, that is right now the new news as we speak. At least they're back. They're now back. We're going to be hearing from, in order, like I said before, for those who just came in the room, we're going to be hearing from government, the federal government, the victims. At least I think we're going to be hearing 5 impact statements. The Virginia Maxwell's attorneys at the end. That's the lineup of who's going to speak before Judge Nathan gives her final sentence to Ghislaine Maxwell, who last year was found guilty of 5 felonious counts of sex trafficking a minor and conspiracy to commit CHOAT felonies, and of course, transporting a minor with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. Ghislaine Maxwell has always repeatedly said that she never worked under Jeffrey Epstein, that she was basically a lover and a victim of Epstein as well. She paints herself as a victim in all this. Throughout the trial of last year, many victims came up and basically said that that was not true, that she basically oversaw the operation, and that even the laborers in the Florida mansion of Jeffrey Epstein even testified saying that Ghislaine Maxwell indeed was the madam of the house and that she basically did order multiple female underage minors to engage in sexual activities to men, adult men. What they didn't know was the names of these people, but we can gather from the flight logs who is a habitual visitor to the Virgin Islands, to New Mexico, to Florida, and to New York, in which all these crimes happened, taken place. That is what we have right now. Her assets, in which $10 million, which was bequeathed from Epstein to Maxwell before he was killed, is up for a civil forfeiture if they choose to do so, which I am absolutely certain after this trial, a civil suit trial is going to commence, in which I don't know how much money they're probably going to get from her, but it's probably going to be in the millions, but we don't know how much, because so much money of the Epstein Maxwell syndicate is basically offshore bank accounts, and we know Epstein was a billionaire many times over, friends of billionaires too. And for those who don't know, Ghislaine Maxwell's father is Robert Maxwell, who basically was killed in a boating accident, and basically was a friend to many prominent people in the Israeli government, and was a prominent fraudulent misappropriation of the group pension fund. He filed for bankruptcy many times during the late 1980s and 90s. There's a lot of scandal involving Robert Maxwell. Just this whole family, the Maxwell family, is wrought with just criminal contempt and fraud, and just now international sex trafficking. And for those who are wondering why did Epstein have security cameras, hidden cameras, by the way, not security cameras, sorry, hidden cameras to detail these escapades, these sex crimes of these very powerful people? Well, it's for information. Information is power. What do you do with that power? Is it for foreign policy? Is it for personal benefit? Is it for interagency benefit? It could be a combination of all these things. Who benefited from this? Well, we don't know, because we don't know who basically engaged in these sexual proclivities of these minors. And we should know, and this should be known to the public. We have a right to know who engaged in these criminal misconduct, because they should be up for trial too. They should be sentenced. They should be found guilty of conducting sex acts with minors. Bob Van Vorta is reporting now that the courtroom artists filled the empty jury box in courtroom 318, and that more reporters, lawyers, spectators filled the gallery at 40 Foley Street here in New York, while seating has been reduced to provide for social distancing. That's nonsense. I'm in New York, and it's Lower Westchester. There is no more social distancing here. I think this is nonsense. They want less people in these pews, and that the judge is handling the proceedings without a mask. Okay, give me a break. They don't want a lot of people reporting on this because they know for sure that this trial is basically just a farce to begin with. It's just at this point, I'll repeat again for the people who are new to the room. Judge Nathan has stated that she's reevaluating the sentencing guidelines for convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. Anywhere between, we don't know for sure yet, anywhere between 15 to 19 years. She was originally looking at 65. The prosecution basically was looking for anywhere between 30 to 65. Her lawyers, her Ghislaine Maxwell's attorneys, were looking between 5 to 10 years, which is absurd. I'm going to make my prediction now. I think she receives less than 20, but more than 10. But it's still, she's 60 years old. If she gets 10 or 15 years, she's 70, 75 years old if she lives that long. But like I said before, I think basically the reason why she's not looking at a full max term is because the very powerful people at play here, the real criminals that were engaging in these sex crimes with minors, basically offered Maxwell a real secret deal that they won't kill her if she, takes the sentencing and doesn't ask for a retrial. But she won't be sentenced to a death sentence, and she'll get out in 10 to 15 years. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I really am. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but it's absurd on its face. I'll be here for the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes, to report live updates about Ghislaine Maxwell's sentencing. Right now, we're still waiting on victim impact statements before Judge Nathan exalts her statement, and then she sentences Ghislaine Maxwell. I hope the victim impact statements provide the sucker punch to Ghislaine Maxwell, so to speak. But I have a feeling this is not going to be enough. I'm just stunned at the fact that that Judge Nathan is basically going to sentence her anywhere between 10 to 15. And it's my gut. My gut is telling me she's not going to be facing much, and that let's see. We'll see for sure. Earlier today, U.S. probation officials apparently told Judge Nathan that Maxwell should face 360 months, but that the sentencing guidelines establish a uniform policy for setting the punishment of people and organizations that were behind the funding of Epstein and Maxwell's sex trafficking ring, and that they should be convicted of federal crimes. Now, the two sides were given an opportunity today to object in their findings in the pre-sentencing report before the judge decides what the actual range is. Well, now we know what the actual range is. And it basically is a win for the Maxwell defense. But we don't know yet the exact sentencing for Maxwell. Everybody has been filing in the courtroom back from their break And we will hear now from the government. I guess that's the prosecution regarding Maxwell's crimes. And I don't know what they're going to bring here. This is the final statement made by the prosecution. I'm going to guess they're going to be talking about crimes happening before 2004, crimes happening after 2004, in which in 2004, Epstein was charged with sex trafficking by a minor in Florida. And that was in 2004. It was a Jane Doe. Now, there was civil cases on Jeffrey Epstein that was Jane Doe in 2008. And if I say Jane Doe, that means a minor. They don't release names of minors. There was a Jane Doe in 2014 in Florida, a Virginia Giuffre in 2015, Virginia Giuffre versus Ghislaine Maxwell in 2015, a Jane Doe, another minor, versus Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump in 2016. Sarah Ransom filed a civil suit against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell in 2017. Bradley Edwards, an attorney against Epstein, a defamation lawsuit in 2018. Maria Farmer, a civil suit against Epstein and Maxwell in 2019. Jeffrey Arroaz, who was a minor at the age of 15, sexually assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein. That civil suit against Epstein and Maxwell in 2019. Caitlin Doe, also known as Caitlin Doe, Lisa Doe, these are three women, sued the Epstein estate in 2019. They were 17 years old. Jane Doe versus the Epstein estate. She was recruited at the age of 14 in 2002. That civil suit was in 2019. Teresa Helms, the Epstein estate in 2019, in which five women, Teresa Helm, Annie Farmer, Maria Farmer, Juliet Bryan, and an unidentified woman, accusing Epstein of rape, battery, and false imprisonment. Jane Doe at the age of 15 against Epstein's estate in 2019. Teela Davies versus the Epstein estate in 2019. Jane Doe, 9 minors, all between the ages of 13 and 15, versus the Epstein estate in 2019. J.J. Doe versus the Epstein estate in 2019. She was 14 years old at the time. U.S. Virgin Islands, a lawsuit by the Superior Court of the U.S. Virgin Islands, alleging that Epstein ran a sex trafficking conspiracy for 20 years, sued the Epstein estate in 2020. Jane Doe, a 13-year-old music student, sued Maxwell and Epstein in 2020. Jane Doe, 11 years old, and her sister, 13 years old, Epstein estate, civil suit in 2020. Jane Doe, 18 years old, Epstein estate, 2020. Kelly Brenneman, a civil suit in 2021 when she said Epstein was brutally raping and torturing her in his Manhattan residence in 2003. And finally, Jane Doe, 13 years old, brutalized, rape from Epstein, supervised by Maxwell, against a civil suit against the Epstein estate in 2021. That is an extremely long list of people. And by the way, that's not all of them. Those are the ones who went public, who basically wanted to go public because they were civil suiting her. Not everybody is suing Epstein. So, I mean, there's too much here. And according to witnesses and sources, on the day Epstein was arrested, about a dozen FBI agents went to the Manhattan townhouse, which is the Herbert Stratus house, in which they found hundreds, if not thousands, of photographs and CDs of the security cameras, the hidden cameras, hundreds, perhaps thousands, this is coming from the FBI, thousands of sexually suggestive photographs of partially and fully nude minors. Some of those photos were confirmed of underage females, in which some of them were the people I just named, and that they were found in a lock safe also with $70,000 in cash, and that they had the labels on these CD-ROMs: young name plus name, miscellaneous nudes one, girl nude pics, ages all between 12 to 17. There was a passport that was found, which showed a place of residence in Saudi Arabia. Whether this passport is a fraudulent passport, he had passports also to France, Spain, United Kingdom, Israel, Saudi Arabia. Um, and all this should have came out in court a long time ago. And basically, the CD-ROMs were never made public in the trial. Why? Why not? And like I said before, it's basically because um, the very powerful people that were in these flight logs, probably most of them, were engaging in these sex acts. And this would basically destroy them because these are very powerful people. And the powerful don't get real justice. Okay, we have an update. Um, Prosecution is now speaking. Prosecutor Allison Moe is going to speak for the government. She's starting with the victim, Jane. Jane, I told you about, who civil suited Epstein in 2017. Um, Prosecution Allison Moe is reading a victim statement from Jane saying that Maxwell trapped young girls in a horrifying manner, and that the pain is real and that it does matter to the victims and to those who did not come publicly out and against Epstein and Maxwell in the civil suit. Um, so far, she's still reading as we speak, and we're going to get these updates from legal reporters Patricia Hurtado and Bob Van Voria. They are in the courtroom right now speaking, reporting on behalf of what is being said in the courts. And this is going to be huge. These victim impact statements are enormous because this is the enormity of the case right here. Okay, Allison Moe is stating that Maxwell first met the victim Jane at summer camp in 1994. What Maxwell did in the years that followed to Jane and Kate and Annie and Virginia and Caroline and Melissa was almost unspeakable. These girls were just kids. They were just finding their way in the world. These kids had hopes and dreams for the future, and the defendant used those dreams to abuse them. What kind of person leads young girls to massage the feet of a middle-aged man? We're still waiting on what else is being said at the impact statement that the prosecution, for those who don't know, prosecution is now speaking on behalf of the victim impact statements. She is speaking on behalf of Annie Farmer, Jane and Kate, Virginia Giuffre, and Caroline, and Melissa. Okay, the prosecution speaking on behalf of Annie Farmer's testimony. What kind of person gets a 16-year-old girl in a ranch in the middle of nowhere? What kind of person flies around on a plane with underage girls so when her boyfriend always has someone to touch? This is pretty damning. Still waiting on victim impact statements updates. That is being read out loud by prosecutor Allison Moe. Moe is still reading from the impact statement. Maxwell was an adult woman, and she made the choice week in, week out to commit crimes with Jeffrey Epstein to make his crimes possible. For those who are still in the room, I'm going to be staying a little bit later. I was going to leave in about 20 minutes. I'm going to stay for close to an hour now, just for you, but I have to go to work. Still reading from the impact statements. What kind of person would use their privilege, their power in this world to intentionally prey on the vulnerable young girls from struggling families, girls without fathers, girls who needed help? These are the actions of a person who was indifferent to the suffering of other human beings. To Maxwell, there were two kinds of people in this world: the people who really mattered and the people she thought were disposable. This reprobate socialite took millions of dollars from Epstein. That's because Maxwell and Epstein were predators together. They were partners in crime and they molested kids together. Oof. What an impact statement. If she don't get 30 years, we don't have justice in this world. What'd you say, Vinny? What happened to Jeffrey Berman, who was involved with Lawyers 9/11 case? Was he not involved in this case before being replaced? You know what? I think you're right. I'm not, Vinny. I wish I knew a little bit more about that. Jeffrey, I think you're. I wish I knew more about that to answer you. I don't know. Um, she's still reading. The defendant has lied repeatedly. She has been dishonored to the court, and she has made misrepresentations when it suits her. Allison Moe is reading the victim impact statements before the court, before the sentencing guidelines. And we're still waiting to see whether, I don't know how long this victim impact statement, I don't think it's going to be long. And then we'll get to hear from the defense. And then we'll hear from the sentencing. And it probably will be before 2 o'clock for sure. No, thank you, Maria. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I think it's important enough to, I'm just surprised nobody's doing a live video of this. This is huge. Maybe there's somebody out there. Somebody out there doing a live stream. Do you guys know? And if nobody is, I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked because this is huge. This should be on every TV in the country. I don't watch TV, so is it on? Do you guys watch TV? Is it on TV at all? This live coverage of Ghislaine sentencing? Allison Moe says there are cases that deserve a longer sentence than the guidelines call for. That is this case. It is exactly this case that is the time to impose an above guideline sentence. And that Maxwell's breathtaking conduct deserves the maximum sentence. Damn straight it does. Damn straight. For those who aren't aware, there are two guidelines at play here that the judge is entertaining. There was a pre-guideline before 2004 that Maxwell claims that she was not aware of the crimes that were happening in the 90s and the early 2000s, and the crimes that she was convicted of after 2004, that she was found guilty in her trial last year. And that is the shorter guidelines. Okay, she is ending the victim impact statement saying, a sentence that sends a message that those who conspire with sexual predators will be held responsible for their role in these crimes. We ask the court to send a message that nobody is above the law and that nobody is too rich or powerful to be held accountable. True. Maria, you didn't find it on anywhere. I searched and searched and finally found you. Court TV. Court TV's not doing this? Wow. Okay. The victims are about to speak, and Annie Farmer will be speaking first. Annie Farmer is going to be speaking before we hear from the defense. We should have heard from the defense first. because the victim impact statements are important. Annie Farmer is now becoming too emotional to speak. She is saying it was the kind of dark memory that feels safest to be locked away. Annie Farmer is right now being very emotional. It's reported by Chris Donovich and Patricia Hurtado, who are in the courtroom as we speak. And I'm reading live updates. These are right as it's happening. So I'll give you as long as I can. As long as I can. Like I said, I do have to go to work, but I will stay longer for you. I will stay for the next close to an hour because I would like to see the sentencing and want to share that with you. We all deserve to see this disgusting person get the max. Right now, Annie Farmer is being consoled by her attorneys. This is an update, live update. Maria Farmer is speaking, but she's too emotional to speak. That's being I don't know. I couldn't. I hate to use the cliche. Put yourself in their shoes. You can't. You just can't. So I really don't have anything to say. Sky News currently live from outside the court. They're not even in the court. Because according to the court, they're practicing social distancing. Meanwhile, nobody's wearing a mask. I'll tell you right now, the reason why they don't want reporters in the court is because they don't want, they don't want the legacy media in the court. They would rather have this like a less reported incident. You know what's funny is that I'm on Twitter too, and this is not even like top news on Twitter. How is this not? It was for a bit. How is this not top news everywhere? Trending: Michael Stenger in Trump White House in January 6th. Are you kidding me? For those who don't know about the update, right now, the prosecution gave a victim impact statement suggesting that the guidelines should be longer, the sentencing should be longer. So the victim impact statements of 5 victims are speaking, and Maria Farmer was first, but she's being consulted. She's too emotional right now. She did manage to say it was the kind of dark memory that feels safest to be locked away. I can't imagine, we'll see what's going on. But yeah, this is a crime. That this is not all over everywhere. And I'll even go on, is this even on Yahoo News? No. January 6th panel presents new evidence of witness testimony for a riot. Okay, updates. Farmer she's now speaking. This is Farmer speaking. Maria Farmer. The ripple effects of trauma are undeniable, saying her sister Maria was also harmed by being sexually abused by Epstein. Maria Farmer fighting back tears, saying it was heartbreaking and infuriating to witness the suffering of her family as well as other minor girls. Evan Peng, who's reporting inside the courtroom too, is noticing the mannerisms of Ghislaine Maxwell, suggesting that Maxwell has maintained a largely unemotional demeanor throughout the victim impact statement of Maria Farmer. But when Maria Farmer was speaking, she was occasionally looking down and taking drinks of water. She is notably avoiding looking at the podium where the prosecution, Allison Moe, spoke and where Maria Farmer is currently speaking from. Maria Farmer is trying to look at Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell is looking at the floor. Can't even look her in the ear. The eye, ear. Gotta wake up here. I don't have coffee yet. Good morning, Pure Palm. Good morning to everybody in the courtroom. I'm reporting live updates, Ghislaine Maxwell sentencing phase. I will stay for the next 40 to 50 minutes. I was going to leave in 10, 20, but I'll stay for the next 40. I have to go to work. Um, Maria Farmer is giving her impact statement as we speak at the trial. And we'll wait for more updates as we speak. Maria Farmer is really emotional right now. It's the reason why I don't have much in the way of quick updates for you. She's taking her time speaking, which is totally understandable, I guess. It's just the trauma is never going to leave. And that's the real sentence, right, for these people. It never leaves. Meanwhile, Ghislaine Maxwell, wants to be out in 5 years. It's disgraceful. Um, I'm still stunned that I shouldn't be, that the legacy is not reporting on this sentencing trays. I just unbelievable. Okay, updates. Um, Maria Farmer, this is her speaking. Judge Nathan, I hope when you consider the appropriate prison sentence for the role Maxwell played in the sex trafficking operation, you take into account the ongoing suffering of the many women she abused and exploited, as we will continue to live with the memories of the ways she harmed us. I hope you weigh the systematic efforts of the crimes she perpetrated, the ways that our family members, romantic partners, and friends have been hurt through our suffering. I ask you to bear in mind how Maxwell's unwillingness to acknowledge her crimes, her lack of remorse, and her repeated lies about her victims created the need for many of us to engage in a long fight for justice that has felt like a black hole sucking in our precious time, energy, and well being for much too long now. These things cannot be replaced. And that is the end of Maria Farmer's impact statement. Victim Kate is about to speak. She is about to speak at the podium. There's going to be 5 people speaking, and then we will hear from the defense of Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't know how much we're going to hear from Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers. I don't know if they're going to brand these people as liars. Who knows? She did anyway. She did already. That she said that the women were lying, and that was before she was sentenced. She was found guilty of 5 felonious counts of sex trafficking and engaging in criminal acts on a minor. So victim Kate is speaking, and we will hear her impact statement. Kate says women must take a stand of zero tolerance to those who use their power to groom and traffic the vulnerable. Every single child must have their innocence defended. No person should be shielded from the consequences of their actions. Maxwell's lack of remorse and her blatant refusal to take responsibility is her final insult. She is not sorry, and she will do it again. Still waiting on her impact statement. Maxwell is continuing to look down on the floor, not once has looked up to the impact statements of these victims. She is still speaking, and we're going to read you the reports as they are updated. Just be patient. What I'm reading from is live updates of the reporters inside the courthouse. Chris Domicic, Patricia Hurtado, Evan Peng, and there's another person there. forgot his name. Bob Van Voort. 4 people are reporting inside the courthouse. Surprised they don't have like ABC, NBC. And again, I sound like a hypocrite. I shouldn't be surprised, but this is what we're left with: a lack of reporting about probably the most important story in years, many years. This is involved in probably the most important story in U.S. history, and because of the amount of people, powerful people that's involved. Kate ends her impact statement by saying, "Today is not a happy day. I take no pleasure in being part of a world where this is necessary. I am proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with these brave women and to do what is necessary to stop Ghislaine Maxwell." She ends her impact statement. Virginia Giuffre is being read by her lawyer, Sigrid McCauley. So Virginia Giuffre is not at the podium. She is being read her statement by her lawyer, Sigrid McCauley. So this is her statement. And we will see what Virginia Giuffre has to say. Virginia Giuffre settled out of court last year on Prince Andrew for an undisclosed sum. Okay, the statement reads like this. Ghislaine, 22 years ago, in the summer of 2000, you spotted me at Mar-a-Lago Hotel in Florida, and you made a choice. You chose to follow me and procure me for Jeffrey Epstein. Just hours later, you and he abused me together for the first time. Together, you damaged me physically, mentally, sexually, and emotionally. Together, you did unthinkable things that still have a corrosive impact on me to this day. This is an impact statement read by Sigrid McCauley, the lawyer for Virginia Giuffre. The impact statements don't seem to be long, and I think these people just want to say what they have to say because they want the sentencing right away. Oh, good point, Pure Paul. Good one. Okay, she's reading again. When you did that, Ghislaine, you changed the course of our lives forever. You joked that you were like a new mother to us. As a woman, I think you understand the damage you were causing, the price you were making us victims pay. You could have put an end to the rapes, the molestations, the sickening manipulations that you arranged, witnessed, and even took part in. You could have called the authorities and reported that you were part of something awful. The impact statements seem to have a very emotional um, impact on the people at trial. Some people are weeping in the trial. Ghislaine Maxwell continues to not look at the podium or at the lawyer, Siegfried, who's reading Virginia Giuffre's statement. She reads again. There is not a day that goes by, and I don't ask why. Why, Ghislaine, did you enjoy hurting us so much? I worry every single day and night that you will get away with it and evade being punished. I will worry about that until you are brought to justice. And what should that justice look like? Ghislaine, you deserve to spend the rest of your life in a jail cell. You deserve to be trapped in a cage forever, just like you trapped your victims. My promise to you is as follows. As long as you and perpetrators like you continue to prey upon the vulnerable, I will not stop standing up and speaking out. Together with so many others you abused, we will do all we can to keep predators from stealing the innocence of children. I will never give up. I will never go away. If you ever get out of prison, I will be here watching you, making sure you never hurt anyone else again. And that is the end of the impact statement read by Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, Siegfried McCauley. 3 impact statements so far being read, and all 3, Virginia Giuffre so far is really the most powerful so far, I think. We will now hear from 2 others before we hear from Maxwell's attorneys, and then Judge Nathan will sentence Ghislaine Maxwell. So I'm pretty sure so far these victim impact statements have been short, and we will probably hear about the sentencing in, I'm hoping, less than a half hour. I think that's so far that's what's it's gonna look like. I don't know who's going to be up next. We heard from Maria Farmer, Virginia Giuffre, and victim Kate. We will hear from 2 others. And then trying to think who are the 2 others. Oh no. Okay, victim Sarah Ransom is now giving her statement. Sarah Ransom was abused by Jeffrey Epstein. When she testified at Virginia Giuffre's, I'm sorry, Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, she does admit that she tried to commit suicide twice. All right, she is at the podium and she's reading her impact statement. Sarah Ransom. Like the Hotel California, you could check into the Epstein dungeon of sexual hell, but you can never leave. These are live updates of the victim impact statements as I'm reading them. She continues, I became nothing more than a sex toy for Epstein to sexually abuse. I became so distraught by the abuse while on Epstein's private island that I tried to jump into shark-infested waters to escape. Hmm. I will continue reading as it's being reported live. Sarah Ransom is a little bit emotional on the stand. She continues, Maxwell called her a piglet, claiming she was overweight before she and Epstein would endorse and pay for her to attend the Fashion Institute of Technology. So not only did she suffer physical abuse, but also mental abuse as well. These people are sickening. I'm frequently experiencing a flashback and wake up in a cold sweat from reliving the experience. Ransom is uncontrollable now on the stand. These I'll tell you right now, these impact statements don't give her the max. I just, the system is broken. The system's broken anyway, but this is unbelievable. I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. The impact statements are very powerful, and the amount of civil suits that are still ongoing is, and I just read them earlier. If you haven't heard me read about the civil suits that are still ongoing, going as far back as 2007. You could rewind the video and check that out too. Right now, she hasn't spoke. She's still uncontrollably crying. I will continue to report on this for the next half hour. Then I got to go to work. I'm only doing this because I didn't see anybody doing any live updates on the sentencing of Ghislaine Maxwell. I can't believe it. I really can't. I can't believe I'm the only. I can't be the only one doing this. Okay, she's now speaking. I have never married, and I do not have children. Something I always wished for when I was a little girl. I shy away from meeting new people and have difficulty meeting new friends because I fear they will be associated with Epstein and Maxwell. These victims are basically, I have attempted suicide twice since the abuse. Ransom is fighting back tears at the current moment. We will hear from one other victim impact statement, and then we will hear from Maxwell's attorneys, and then we will hear from Judge Nelson, who will sentence Ghislaine Maxwell. How can this five-star general of this enormous sex trafficking conspiracy continue to maintain her innocence? She believes herself to be beyond reproach and above the law. Screaming from the podium to Maxwell, screaming. And she has every right to be this way. Every right to yell at Maxwell. Maxwell does not look at Ransom. Of course not, she's a coward. Ransom, very emotional. Sarah Ransom reading her victim impact statement, very emotional, yelling at Maxwell. I'm reading from live updates from the court of the sentencing phase of Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm still waiting for the reports coming out of the trial from Patricia Hurtado, who's reporting live from this trial. Ransom still unconsolable at the podium. To Ghislaine, I say, you broke me in unfathomable ways, but you did not break my spirit, nor did you dampen my internal flame that now burns brighter than ever before. And that is her closing remark. We will hear from one more victim impact statement and then from Maxwell's defense. And of course, the sentencing of Ghislaine Maxwell. Ransom still yelling, "You will never hurt another young woman or child again in this lifetime." And with that, I am sure. That's her yelling in the court. Wow. Oh, my goodness. Anything short of 25 years is just anything short of life. This woman deserves to be in Super Adamax prison with Ramsey Youssef and Terry Nichols. You know, the real sociopaths of the world. She belongs under the prison. I will continue reporting for the next half hour, and then I have to leave. I'll be cutting it close for work, by the way. I'm going to take a cab, but I feel this is important to update. This is such an important subject. It's so underreported, and we know why. And everybody in this room knows why. It's because the people involved, the people we probably won't see justice. The people that were sexually abusing these minor girls, they don't want to be held accountable, and they don't want the media to report honestly and earnestly. And usually I go to work now. I leave at 1:30, but I'm going to still report live from the trial. I'm not at the trial. I'm reading you updates from people at the inside the courtroom, and I'm going to read it to you. I'm only doing this because I see nobody else is giving a live update to this, which I'm very surprised. I really am, unless Addy Ads is doing something, or maybe Ryan Dawson is doing something. I don't know what time it is, Japan. Maybe it's late. He can't do something. But yeah, this is. I'm shocked nobody's reporting on this live. Those are the only two I would recommend about Epstein. Okay, Ransom has finished, but she was emotionally uncontrollable. Boy, she was very angry at Maxwell. Liz Stein is now speaking. Um, Liz Stein is was assaulted by Epstein and Maxwell on occasion for over 3 years. She is the final impact statement. After her, we will hear from, uh, like I said, Maxwell's lawyers, and then we will hear about this, Judge Nelson and the statement and the sentencing. I'm sorry. Liz Stein came to the courtroom with Sarah Ransom, which is the trial is the court is in Lower Manhattan, New York, and we're waiting on the final impact statement of Ghislaine Maxwell's sentencing phase. Stein says she was a senior at the Fashion Institute of Technology when she met Ghislaine Maxwell while working in Henry Bendel's department store in 1991. This is Liz Stein. Quote, she told me that her boss, who I later came to understand was Jeffrey Epstein, was close friends with Lex Wexner, the CEO and founder of The Limited, which owned Henry Bendel at the time. When she completed her purchases, I offered to deliver them to her so she didn't have to carry them around all day. This was a courtesy I frequently extended to my high-end clients. Later that day, I called her office for delivery instructions and was told to bring them to the Pierre Hotel close by the store. When I arrived, the hotel concierge told me Mrs. Maxwell was in the bar and wanted me to meet someone. It was Jeffrey Epstein. That night in the hotel was the first of many times they sexually assaulted me. She says that after she was sexually assaulted, Maxwell and Epstein arranged for her to get a full-time job at Bendel's, but she rejected it. Maxwell found out and she flew into a rage. I didn't understand why until she told me that she and Epstein were responsible for giving me that opportunity and that in turning it down, I was being ungrateful. I now know this was their modus operandi. Give a gift or favor and then demand sex in return. For those who are just coming into the room, I'm reading the victim impact statement of uh, Liz Stein. She is the final impact statement before we hear from Maxwell's attorneys and then the sentencing. Stein went on to say, she continues, I wasn't crazy. I was hurt. Adding, that I was in and out of psychiatric hospitals and procedures, but nothing ever helped. It felt like someone turned off the lights of my soul, and that she had a nervous breakdown after Epstein and Maxwell repeatedly found her and coerced her back into acquiescing to sexual proclivities with a number of adult men. Hmm. This is these impact statements. I wish they would last, because this would probably persuade the judge to give it a max. I'm hoping this does it. I really am. For those in the room, I am reading live impact statements. We are just mere minutes away from sentencing of Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted of 5 felonious counts of sex trafficking of a minor and sex abuse of minor with intent to harm. Things happened that were so traumatizing that to this day, I am unable to speak about them with anyone. I don't even have the vocabulary to describe them. In the most literal sense of the word, Epstein and Maxwell terrified me. Liz Stein, victim impact statement. She is at the podium. Ghislaine Maxwell has not once looked at any of the victim impact statements being read at the podium. She continues to look at her desk and on the floor. I'm not surprised. Waiting for an update on additional statements made by Liz Stein. I think we're near the end before we hear. Yes, I can. Can you hear? Am I louder now, Kirsty? I'm sorry if I'm speaking away. Hopefully that's. I'm hoping I could. You can hear me much better now. So far, we heard from 4 people. Liz Stein is the 5th and final impact statement. She continues, the arrests of Epstein and Maxwell in 2019 and 2020, respectively, helped me immensely. For the first time, I was finally able to disclose their abuse to close friends and medical providers. 25 years after meeting them, my experience was validated. I could finally see the possibility of closure. Patricia Hurtado is the legal reporter, and along with Chris Domitach, Evan Peng, and 2 others are the only ones inside the court reporting as is. I'm reading as is coming out from these reporters at the trial. At the sentencing phase of Ghislaine Maxwell here in Lower Manhattan, New York. Stein is emotional on the stand. And I guess that's to be expected with these heinous crimes. How many hundreds of others? Okay, Stein ends her impact statement saying that the difference between her and her siblings is that one day when I was doing my job, I met Ghislaine Maxwell, who fed me to Jeffrey Epstein. For the past 25 years, Ghislaine Maxwell has been free to live a life of wealth and privilege that is almost incomprehensible. Meanwhile, I have had virtually none of the life experiences I might have had we never met. For over 2.5 decades, I felt like I was in prison. She had her life. It's time to have mine. She needs to be in prison so her victims can all finally be free. That is the end of Liv Stein. And now we will hear from the defense of Ghislaine Maxwell. Several other victim impact statements were submitted to the court beforehand. Ransome's letter includes photographs of her in the hospital of one of her suicide attempts. Wow. Okay, so the defense attorney for Ghislaine Maxwell is speaking. And then after her, we will hear the sentencing of Ghislaine Maxwell. The defense attorney is Bobby Steinham, and she is addressing the victims, saying she wants to acknowledge the courage you have exhibited. Your statements are immensely powerful. This is Bobby Steinham, the defense attorney of Ghislaine Maxwell, speaking. So we are near the sentencing phase. I'm going to be cutting it close to work here. Oh, man. I could stay for another 20, 30 minutes. Then I have to get out of here and go to work. I mean, cut it close. I'm like I said, I'm only doing this because I can't believe there's no live streams of the sentencing here. I really can't. So for those in the room, we are hearing defense attorney Bobby Steinham for Ghislaine Maxwell read the an impact statement. Not an impact statement. She's reading a statement on behalf of Ghislaine Maxwell. And after that, the sentencing. Steinham continues. We recognize that any sentence in this case is going to be significant and is going to be immensely punishing. Meanwhile, Steinham asked for 5 years. 5 years. I just disgraceful. Hate this person. I mean, look, it's not Steinham. It's our job as a lawyer. I mean, we can hate the lawyers. Shakespeare was right. Kill all the lawyers, right? But no, I mean, it's not Steinham we should be angry with. It's Maxwell. She's acting on behalf of Maxwell. So, wordless. Thank you. 29 people reporting. I'm reading from live statements at the court of Ghislaine Maxwell, and soon we will hear from the judge, and we will hear the sentencing. Steinham continues. The government's request is out of proportion. The government's request was 60 years, which was the guidelines of the five felony counts that Maxwell was found guilty of last year. The government's request is out of proportion. 65 years. He's lucky he didn't get the death sentence. Jeffrey Epstein would have faced the same sentence, and he is clearly far more culpable than Ghislaine Maxwell. My goodness. Still painting Ghislaine Maxwell as a victim of Epstein. I mean, really? Even after she's found guilty? Goodness gracious. It's absurd at this point. You know, like I said, I know it's your job as a lawyer, but wow. But what can you say, right? After we hear from Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer, we will hear from Judge Nelson and the sentence of Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm reading from live updates at the trial as we speak. These are live updates from the reporters in the courtroom. Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, Gloria Sternheim, is reading her final statement. And after this, we will hear from Judge where she will sentence Ghislaine Maxwell. Sternheim is still speaking. Is this not on TV? I asked somebody that before. This is silly. It's not on TV. Based I'm sorry. My eyesight is not that good anymore. I still can't believe it's not on TV. This is a lot. I'm speaking live from these updates from the reporters who are in the trial. How is it nobody reporting on this remarkable case live? I don't get it. How about on YouTube? Is anybody in this room? Is there anybody reporting live like I'm doing right now? I'm shooting out of my room, but like nobody's reporting live on YouTube. I'm surprised. I really am. I don't know what's taking so long. Sternheim is speaking. I don't know what's going on here. Um, this is a live stream. Okay, she continues. Ghislaine Maxwell has lived the entirety of her life under giant clouds that have cast a very dark shadow. Um, Noting that Maxwell's eldest brother suffered a tragic accident within 72 hours of her birth that led to his death. Who cares? She continues. Maxwell had to live first under the control of her father, Robert Maxwell, and then under Jeffrey Epstein. Boo hoo. So, in other words, she's a victim herself. She might have well be, but she's a perpetrator of these crimes, and she acted as a knowing associate. Steinheim continues. This is Steinheim. The court needs to consider that there is an extensive period that has elapsed since the end of the proposed conduct. She poses no danger to society or recidivism. What? Really? Unbelievable. So, in other words, all the sexual abuses that have happened under Maxwell, um, we need to consider that, and she poses no danger to society. These victims were 14 to 17 years old, by the way. If this was a man, she's basically, he's going under the jail. This is absurd. She benefited, she made money from it. God knows how many victims there are that didn't come out. According to the FBI, they have hundreds, if not thousands, of photographs, CDs of underage minors from the wealthy elite. We can only imagine how many of those are. It's probably more than we know. I'm almost certain of it. It's more than we know. I'll continue for the next 25 minutes and then I gotta go. So I'm hoping this ends quick. Hopefully Sternheim is not a blowhard and continues. Okay, she continues. Maxwell has done good works at the federal jail in Brooklyn, teaching English as a second language, financial assistance, and teaching fellow inmates in our unit. She has the ability and desire to be law abiding and to do good. Jeez. Wow. Why didn't she do good then? The court should not send her away for the rest of her life. And Sternheim ends the statement. So good. Hopefully, within the next 20 minutes, I can report to you the sentencing phase of Ghislaine. If not, I regretfully have to leave for work because I start at 3 o'clock. I'm taking a cab from my house to go to cab because usually I leave at 1:30. But I'm going to really cut it close. I did want to report this live from the courtroom, what's being said in the court, because I feel that this is an amazingly important story to report on. And I'm very, very surprised that nobody's doing a live update of what's going on right at the minute. So what we heard, okay, Ghislaine Maxwell is speaking. Okay. Your Honor, it is hard for me to address the court after listening to the pain and anguish expressed today. She was given a chance to speak and she said yes, Ghislaine Maxwell. Wow. Okay. Right now, Ghislaine Maxwell was given, Judge Nelson gave her an option to speak. She said yes. So right now, we're hearing from Ghislaine Maxwell. I didn't expect this. This wasn't on the docket, by the way. I guess the judge basically looked at her and said, "Do you wish to speak?" She didn't speak at a trial, before her sentencing. I mean, before she was found guilty, but she is speaking on her sentencing. This is very surprising. This is Ghislaine Maxwell speaking. The terrible impact on the lives of so many women is difficult to hear and even more difficult to absorb in its scale and its extent. I want to acknowledge their suffering. I empathize deeply with all the victims in this case. Really? Really? I acknowledge with that I have been a victim of helping Jeffrey Epstein commit these crimes. Well, at least she states that she's a victim of helping Epstein commit crimes. Right. I mean, the gall of these are just incredible. After we hear from Maxwell, okay, this is Ghislaine This is Ghislaine speaking. Epstein fooled all of those in his orbit. His impact upon all those who were close to him has been devastating. God, I hope the judge doesn't, prolong. Jeffrey Epstein should have been here before you. He should have been here in 2005, in 2009, and again in 2019. Hmm. But today, it is not for Jeffrey Epstein. It is for me to be sentenced. I wonder. Oh boy. Um, I think this is going to be near the end right here, and then we'll hear from the judge. I hope the judge doesn't make a prolonged speech. Maxwell, this is Ghislaine Maxwell. Victims considered Jeffrey Epstein as a godfather, a mentor, a benefactor, a friend, a lover. It is absolutely unfathomable today to think that was how he was viewed contemporaneously. His impact on all those close to him has been devastating. I'm sorry for all the pain you girls have experienced. It is my sincerest wish to all those in this courtroom and all those outside this courtroom that today brings a terrible chapter to an end. She basically is sounding like a sacrificial lamb. And it really brings me to think that the powers that be that engage in sexual abuse of these girls basically gave her an ultimatum saying that just accept your sentence, but you won't get a death sentence. And that, don't, don't mention any of our names. Maxwell goes on to say, may this day help you travel through this darkness into the light. She now concludes her statement. And that is it. We will now hear from Judge uh, Nelson on the sentencing of Ghislaine Maxwell. And we are cutting it real close. I got to go to work soon. We're cutting it close. I hope the judge doesn't, because judges do like to talk and speak before they hand down the sentence. I hope that's not the case. Ms. Wolf, Mr. B. Wolf, yeah, I agree with you. It is a shame. We're probably never going to know. We're probably never going to know. And you know what? What was on those CDs and the hidden cameras in Manhattan, in Florida, in Virgin Islands, they were engaging with the sexual abuse of these minors. Who knows? Was it Bill Clinton? Was it Trump? Was it Prince William? Was it Alan Dershowitz? Kevin Spacey? God knows, man. I think it's more. If you want my name, I thought the judge is Eileen Nathan. Is that right? Pure Palm? Let's take a look. My mind is shot. Allison Nathan. There you go. Allison Nathan is the judge. Okay, the judge is speaking. Counsel, let me gather my thoughts for one moment. This is it. This is it. The judge is speaking. This is it. Let's hope she gets. I'm hoping just 30 years. Remember, Ghislaine Maxwell is 60 years old. Like I said, I'm cutting it real close for work, man. I got to get going soon. As soon as she reads the sentence, I'm going to end the stream immediately because I got to run out the door. Judge Nathan says the guideline range applicable is 188 to 235 months imprisonment. The guideline is only one factor to consider at sentence. "18 months is 15 years, by the way. I mean, 188 months is 15 years. That's the less I think the maximum is 266 months. No, I'm sorry, 366 months. Yay, thank you very much. Come on here. She's about to impose sentence. Give it 28, 30 years. Anything less than 20 this is a disgrace. For anybody new in the room, I'm reading live updates from Ghislaine Maxwell sentencing. Judge Eileen Nathan is speaking. She's about to impose the sentence of the convicted sex trafficker and abuser Ghislaine Maxwell here in New York. That's why I'm waiting. I'm still waiting for the updates from the reporters who are reporting live. I am surprised no one is reporting on this still. Yeah, real. I'm surprised too. No. Okay, the judge says Miss Maxwell directly and repeatedly and over the course of many years participated in a horrific scheme to entice, transport, and traffic underage girls, some as young as 14. Oh, thank you, Annie. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming, taking an interest. This is a very important topic, and it's a horrific story. And like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record. I'm surprised that nobody is reporting on this live. It just That's why I did it. I did this, by the way. I opened this room last second, about 2 hours ago. Miss Maxwell is not being punished in place of Epstein, nor as a proxy for Epstein. Miss Maxwell is being punished for her role. Okay. Give her the sentence. Give her the sentence. I got to run out of here. Maxwell's behavior was heinous and predatory. Young victims who were vulnerable. Give it a gas chamber. Be the only worthwhile sentence. For those, okay. Uh, for those who are new in the room, I'm reading from Judge Allison. My mind is shot. What's her name again? I forgot her name. Judge Nathan. Oh, wow, my mind is shot. I'm thinking about work. Judge Nathan deciding how one victim, Jane, was befriended by Maxwell when she was just 14. Ghislaine Maxwell normalized sexual abuse. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Allison Nathan. For those in the room, I'm reading Judge Nathan's statement before she sentences Ghislaine Maxwell, who is convicted of 5 felonious counts of sex trafficking and sexual abuse of a minor across state lines. Judge Nathan is actually considering 2 guidelines. One is the more aggressive guideline of 35 to 60 years, and one is a guideline that crimes happened after 2004, in which Maxwell states, which are basically 15 to 19 years. We heard from 5 very powerful victim impact statements. Then we heard statements from the prosecution and the defense. Judge Nathan says one victim, Caroline, confided in Maxwell that her mother was an alcoholic and she was raped by her grandfather. The defendant was aware of this knowledge and used it to subject Caroline to a continuing cycle of sexual abuse. man. The conduct demands a substantial sentence. Ooh, wait a minute. What? Yeah, but what's substantial, right? That's a vague term. The damage done to these young girls is incalculable, Nelson says. Zealous cross-examination. So I am reading from live updates for those in the room who are waiting for me to report. I'm reading live updates from the sentencing of Ghislaine Maxwell. The judge is speaking before she hands down her final sentence. A substantial sentence will send an unmistakable message that those who engage in the sexual abuse and trafficking of underage victims will be held accountable by the law. The rule of law demands, and this court agrees, that whether you are rich or powerful or entirely unknown, nobody is above the law. Yeah, right. Because the people that who are on those CD-ROMs are not going to be held accountable. They're the ones who are going to get away with this. So in other words, Ghislaine Maxwell is going to be the sponge here. Now this really is. It depends on what she's going to get. As soon as the sentence is being read, I'm going to cut the stream because I got to run to work. I'm going to be very close to being late. But it's all right. I just told my coworker I might be a little bit late. I like being early, actually. But I still want to report live to you good people. And thank you for staying. Thank you very much. I did want to report live as it was happening because I saw nobody else was reporting on it. And coming from you good people in the room, there was nobody reporting on this. Huh? I'm very surprised that I really am. I thought there would be live streams on YouTube doing this. Judge Nathan says she took into account Maxwell's overbearing and demanding father and the tragic death of her brother. Why? This sounds like a freaking excuse to me. I wouldn't take into account. I don't care. We're talking about the abuse of maybe even hundreds of people here, minors, 14, as young as 14. No matter what abuse you went through, and yeah, that plays in an account, but my God, you're doing it hundreds of times? This is an international sex ring we're talking about with very high, powerful people. I can see if this was a victim, like one or two victims. We're talking dozens and dozens and dozens of people. It's absurd. For those in the room, I'm reading live updates. Judge Nathan is going to sentence Ghislaine Maxwell, hopefully in the next 5 minutes. I'm reading from reporters' updates who are in the courtroom right now. Reporters Chris Domenech, Evan Pong, Patricia Hurtado, and 2 others. Right? What's the weight of the victim, and then Maxwell's own past abuses? I mean, what's far outweighing here? Well, I think the obvious is that what Maxwell did far outweighs what she went through. That's coming from the evidence. So the court really has to make, if this is actually a just sentence, she sees life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. So far, no updates yet. We're about to hear the sentence of Ghislaine Maxwell, hopefully in the next 5 minutes, and I am taking a Uber to work. I got to run. But not yet before I'm going to read the sentence. I don't care. You guys stood that long. You guys deserve it. There's 25 people in the room, so I'm just surprised nobody else is reporting on this. By the way, is anybody watching TV? Is this on TV? I know a couple of you said no, nobody's reporting on YouTube. Oh man. Throw the book at her already, for God's sakes. Okay. Judge Nathan rejects arguments by the defense that Maxwell has been singled out at the Metropolitan Detention Center for harsh and punishing treatment. Miss Maxwell's treatment at the MDC was as good as, if not better than, the typical MDC detainee during the pandemic. Nathan addresses Maxwell's statement in court, saying what wasn't addressed was an acceptance of responsibility. And says there's a lack of acceptance of responsibility. Ghislaine Maxwell will receive 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. For those who are just coming into the room, Judge Nathan has just stated seconds ago that Ghislaine Maxwell will receive 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. Well, wait, there could be additional. I don't know yet. We'll see. She was convicted of 5 offenses. According to legal reporter Patricia Hurtado, Ghislaine Maxwell will get 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. She is also fined $750,000. I don't know if it's with or without parole, bird word list. 20 years. She's 60 years old. She'll be 80. if that's all she's getting. I'm going to hang around for a little bit to see if there's any additional updates. Today's sentence holds Ghislaine Maxwell accountable for perpetrating heinous crimes against children. This sentence sends a strong message that no one is above the law and it's never too late for justice. 20 years total. That's it. 20 years, and she's fined $750,000. That is the end of the court, sentenced to 20. And I tell you the truth, she got a break. Before I go end the stream, she was looking at 65 years, according to the felonious counts in which she was found guilty of, and she got 20 years. 20 years and fined $750,000. Meanwhile, she got $10 million from a fund from Epstein to Maxwell. Okay, so if she's alive and she's 80 years old, she's still a millionaire when she gets out. So this was a travesty of justice, if you ask me. Listen, I got to get going. I got to go to work. I stood as long as I can. Thank you very much for being at the stream. Ghislaine Maxwell, sentenced to 20 years, fined $750,000 for 5 counts of sex trafficking of a minor and procuring abuse of a minor, along with 3 other felonies counts. I'm very disappointed, but I guess it's expected. Listen, guys, thank you very much for coming, and thank you for being in the phone. I got to get to work. You know what? I might do a follow-up video tonight, live stream it, and I'll see you tonight. Thank you very much for coming and taking an interest in this very important story.